Have you ever finished a meeting and felt like someone unplugged you? Not from boredom, not from disagreement, just, well, emptied out. You sit at your desk for a minute before opening the next thing. You stare at your camera off button like it owes you an explanation. And honestly, you can't quite name what you lost in those 30 minutes. But something is gone. If that sounds familiar, you're not soft. You're not antisocial. And you're not, kind of secretly, a bad employee who can't handle a calendar. Most of us were never given the language for what a meeting actually costs your body. So today, let's sit with this one. There are 4 real reasons your meetings drain you, and not one of them has to do with how introverted you are. You've probably been calling it meeting fatigue, or maybe just being tired. You keep telling yourself it's the workload, or the early start, or the fact that you skipped lunch. Maybe even that the meeting itself just ran long. And honestly, those things are true on the surface. They're just not the part doing the actual draining. Because here's the thing most of us miss. A 30-minute meeting and 30 minutes of focused solo work don't leave you in the same place. They don't even leave you in the same body. So what's actually happening underneath the tired feeling? Researchers have really been quietly figuring this out for the last few years, mostly since the pandemic flipped everyone onto video. And honestly, the picture they've put together is, well, not flattering for any of us. You're not lazy in meetings. You're not weak. You're not too sensitive. You're basically doing 4 jobs at once, and none of them are on the agenda. Let's look at each one. Number 1. Your body starts the meeting before you do. In 2021, Microsoft's Human Factors Lab hooked up 14 people to EEG caps, the kind that actually read electrical activity in the brain. They had them sit through 4 back-to-back half-hour video meetings on one day. And then, on a different day, the same 4 meetings, but this time with 10-minute breaks in between. The difference? Well, wasn't subtle. With no breaks, beta wave activity, which is the brain pattern tied to stress, just kept climbing across the meetings. Stress just accumulated. But here's the part most people miss. The biggest spikes didn't actually happen during the meetings. They happened in the gaps. The 2-minute transitions where you were just sitting there, refilling your water, opening the next link. Researchers think it's basically anticipation. Your nervous system is kind of bracing for the next call before the next call even opens. So if you've ever closed Zoom and felt your shoulders drop, then noticed them creep right back up the moment the next meeting timer started counting, that really wasn't your imagination. That was your body doing unpaid labor between meetings. Truthfully, the meeting isn't the only thing draining you. The waiting room is. Number 2. You're staring at yourself, and you don't actually get to stop. Jeremy Bailenson, who runs the Virtual Human Interaction Lab at Stanford, published a paper in 2021, basically called Nonverbal Overload. In it, he asks you to imagine something kind of strange. Imagine you walk into work tomorrow, and an assistant follows you around all day holding up a small mirror. Every conversation you have, every email you read, every coffee you drink, the mirror is there. You can see yourself the whole time. That's, well, kind of what video meetings do. Except the mirror is your own face on your own screen, and most of us leave it on for hours. Self-evaluation is, honestly, exhausting. You start, maybe, adjusting your hair. You kind of start watching your own expressions. You start, sort of quietly, performing a calmer version of yourself for the version of yourself on screen. And by hour 3, you've spent more time looking at your own face than you do in an entire normal week off the laptop. That's not vanity. That's really a cognitive load no one designed your brain to carry. Number 3. You're reading body language through a keyhole. In real life, you pick up nonverbal cues without really trying. A small lean, a glance away, the way someone shifts in their chair before they disagree. You don't really think about any of it. Your brain just knows. But on a video call, well, the cues are missing. Or worse, they're just cropped. You see a face framed from the chin up, lit by a ring light, framed by furniture you don't know. The shoulders are gone. The hands are mostly gone. The pause before someone speaks is filtered through whatever bandwidth they have on a Tuesday. So your brain just works harder. It doesn't stop reading, it just reads less, more anxiously, and with more guessing. Bailenson calls this part cognitive load. It sounds kind of mild. It isn't. It's the same kind of strain your brain does when you're trying to follow a conversation in a noisy restaurant in a language you half speak. Now do that for, well, 40 hours a week. Notice what happens when you log off and a real person walks into the room. The relief is immediate. That's not because you're an introvert. It's because your brain finally has all the information it actually needed all along. Number 4. You're not just attending, you're acting. Researcher Alicia Grandy at Penn State has spent basically over 2 decades studying something called emotional labor. It's the work of producing a face that matches what your workplace expects, regardless of what you actually feel. There are 2 flavors: deep acting, where you really try to feel what you're showing, and surface acting, where you just fake it. Surface acting is, honestly, the one that quietly hollows you out. In meetings, surface acting kind of looks like nodding at the 3rd repeat of the same point. It looks like the small smile when your manager says, "Great question," even when it really wasn't. It looks like agreeable mm-hms in a tone you maybe don't recognize as your own. Decades of research building on Grandy's framework has shown that surface acting predicts emotional exhaustion and a desire to leave the job months later. Months. That's not a meeting effect. That's a slow bleed effect. Chances are, if you feel emptied after a 30-minute call, you spent it doing 4 jobs no one labeled: anticipating, watching yourself, reading distorted cues, and performing a face that fits the room you weren't even fully in. Notice what shows up in your week now. The meeting that really wrecked you probably wasn't the longest one. It was, well, the one with the most surface acting required. The one where you smiled at someone who's been quietly undermining you for months. The one where you laughed at the joke that wasn't quite a joke. It wasn't really the calendar. It was the choreography. And the choreography is basically invisible until you start counting it. So what helps here? Not really a productivity hack, not another app, not a better calendar. Just one small shift this week. Notice which meetings demand surface acting from you. Notice which ones don't. Notice the difference in how you actually feel walking out of each. You don't need to fix your calendar today. You don't need to quit. You just need to start labeling what's actually draining you. Once you can kind of name it, you stop calling yourself tired and start seeing the cost for what it is. It's not weakness, it's recognition. If any of this sounds familiar, you're not broken. You're not too sensitive. You are not being dramatic. Most of us were just never given the language for what meetings quietly take. We were basically just handed calendars and told to perform. So watch what shifts this week. Watch what doesn't. Watch what you finally stop carrying after a long call. The drain isn't really a personal failure. It's a signal. And signals are the part of you that hasn't given up yet. Sketchers, tell the comments which meeting honestly drained you most this week. The long one or the one that made you act? We'll just sit with this together next time. Take a breath. Quieter, lighter, and finally yours.